All right, welcome to another special episode of Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard. This is the Giants pre-scout episode looking at two NFC East opponents coming up right at the start of the year. The Giants, critical for them to start better than they have in the past. They can have the opportunity to do it, but they have to get it done on the road, going in week 1 to the Washington Commanders and then week 2 to the Dallas Cowboys. Both of those teams have some high-profile holdouts, hold-ins, and trade requests. We have Terry McLaurin in Washington and Micah Parsons in Dallas. Coming on the show to talk about this and give us the latest, JP Finlay from NBC4 Sports down in the DC area, and also 106.7 The Fan, BMitch and Finlay, as well as Calvin Watkins of the Dallas Morning News. These interviews brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, My Bookie, Hooks, Rubs, and Spices, and Sal Loretta for Men in Midland Park, New Jersey. BoomChaga.com is where you're going to find the product that has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Fuel your body with nature's best and feel the difference. Go to BoomChaga.com. Use the code TalkinBall25 for 25% off on Subscribe and Save. It's an extract. You can put it in your coffee or tea. They also have cold teas for the summer. Sweet Dreams, Rise and Shine, and Midday Boost. All excellent flavors. At MyBookie, of course, you're going to tail Pat's picks all season long on these NFL games, but it's also the best place to bet UFC, WWE, as well as fantastic casino games. MyBookie, the best place to play and to win at mybookie.ag with the promo code Leonard, Leonard, and Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. Grateful to have Hooks, Rubs, and Spices on board, owned and operated by Jared, a Giants fan, a diehard Giants fan, from the Houston area. Whether you're home gating or hosting, the Giants crew in the lot, Hooks, Rubs, and Spices, gives your grill serious flavor with their bold seasoning lineup. Use the code Talkin Ball for a 15% discount and find the full lineup and some tailgate recipes and playlists on hooksrub.com. Hooks, Rubs, and Spices, we smoke meat. And of course, Sal Loretta for Men in Midland Park, New Jersey. They outfit me for all of my arrivals. They get me looking fresh. You know who's going to make us look a lot better, though, is JP Finlay of NBC4 Sports in DC and 106.7 The Fan. So we're bringing him on now to talk Washington Commanders and the Giants. All right, welcome back to the program. He is the one and only JP Finlay of NBC4 Sports in DC and 106.7 The Fan, BMitch and Finlay. JP, first of all, welcome. Second of all, your reels are, they're next level. You got the golf club in the studio, like you're putting, you're chipping, you're walking and talking. Like, can you give me a couple tips to how to make these reels that draw people in? Because I get to the end of yours. Usually I'm just scrolling past people.
That's the idea, right?
But yours are drawing me in, man.
So we do them for the radio show. And you've been to a radio studio. It's just like chock full of stuff. There's just so much like junk laying around. And then there's wiffle ball bats and golf clubs. So I just am like always, we're doing those during breaks of the radio show. So I'm almost always like doing something during a break. And then they just ask me the question and that's the reel. The ones I've been putting together. So like a family friend of mine that just graduated college told me I had to grow my TikTok. And I'm like, well, I got no chance at that. And then she kind of like dared me and like told me how bad I was at it. So I kind of like cared. And then I had a commenter that was another like young woman on TikTok that said, you got to hire somebody to do this. You're giving dad using social media energy. And I was like, I am a dad using social media energy. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on down here. We're
right. Like I hear that and I'm like, I'm proud of that. I'm like, good, because that's who I am.
Yeah, that's authentic. Isn't that what we're striving for?
That's great. Well, they're resonating with me, another dad trying to use social media. So that you're hitting the target demographic.
Right.
All right. So Giants Commanders, right off the bat, the Giants have been crushed at home the last 2 years to open Dallas and Minnesota. They need to win a game early. They need to win on the road. So we're trying to download on all things Commanders. You have to start with Terry McLaurin. Where does this stand with the top receiver for Washington requesting a trade? Is a contract going to get done? What's the latest?
So what I can tell you is the team very much wants Terry. All the sources I've talked to, Terry is a part of their plan. Now, does that mean he's under contract this year and that's why he's part of the plan? It people I talk to, they want to get something done to make him happy. They want to get something long-term done. Obviously, they're held up on the numbers. I feel like this will get resolved, and maybe that's even relatively soon, end of this week, early next week. They have joint practices against the Patriots and then their first preseason game against the Pats. Then they have a full week off because they play Monday night against the Bengals for preseason game 2. So that is, 6 practices over 7 days. So even if you could just get Terry in towards the back end of that, maybe he doesn't play against the Bengals, but then they have one more joint practice against the Ravens. I think you'd love to get him a little bit of work against somebody else, just kind of get them up to speed. So, I mean, to me, I still think they get that done. I think a misguided focus is on the AAV and trying to stack up against other players. I think they just need to drive the guarantees really high. And if you get north of $50 million in guaranteed money, for a player that's going to turn 30 by week 3, I think all parties should just feel pretty good. I mean, he did request a trade. Requesting a trade is kind of like, stomping your feet as you walk up the stairs when you're a little kid. Like, you're still going to bed. You know what I mean? Like, it's I don't think he's going to get traded. I don't think that's a viable path. But, he is pissed. They're trying to get something done. He's been upset for some time.
Yeah, there's it's interesting because it looks like he's around and he seems in good kind of semi-collaborative spirit being there, but then the trade request is a trade request. And like you said, there's a lot of guys who have requested trades and then just ended up signing, right? Myles Garrett was a big one this offseason, but it is interesting to me from the outside looking in, JP. Another question I had is, I know that they're still kind of building something there, right? Peters and Quinn. And so with Jaden there now, it feels like they have something even quicker than anyone would have imagined. But from the outside looking in, like I'm looking at the playoff stats last year, and I look at how Xavier Worthy first in receiving yards in the league. But after that, it's De'Ami Brown at 229 and a touchdown, and it's Terry McLaurin, 227, 3 touchdowns. Brown walks, goes to Jacksonville. He's gone. McLaurin now, the second part of that duo that helped Washington exceed expectations in the playoffs, is requesting a trade and not practicing. And what I would ask to you is, how is the team receiving this kind of thing? Does this create any friction that some of the guys who were carrying the mantle last season have either been let go or there's hardball being played against them?
The De'Ami thing I would separate because he never produced like that kind of ever over his 4-year career, and then had a really good playoff run and deserves a lot of credit for that. But I think Washington was okay. I mean, he's a vertical threat that got vertical a couple times in the playoffs. The Terry thing is interesting because I think if this got to a finish that I don't expect, where he is traded or he does just have to play on the last year of this deal and he's pissed off, like, I do think some guys would be like, man, Terry's the guy that does it right all the time, and they can't get a deal done with him. What are they going to do with me? And obviously they brought in some more high-priced big name veterans this year, more so than they've done in the past with Tunsil and Debo. But as of now, according to everybody I talked to, they're cool. Like, it's like, yeah, Terry's at meetings. He's good. Everything's cool. I do think there's an undercurrent of like, man, we got to get this done. This is Terry. This is 17. But I think we got to get this done has not turned into what the hell are they doing? We got to get this done. I think.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just think players understand the business of football, and they, by and large, are allowing it to play out.
So the reason Jaden is not shouting from the rooftops, sign Terry McLaurin, is not because he doesn't have his back. It's because the feeling is it's on the way to getting done, and it's not yet like, let's press the red button from that kind of standpoint yet. Yeah,
and Jaden, I mean, all of these players have been openly supportive of Terry and saying Jaden has now said repeatedly, can't wait for him to get back. As soon as he gets back, it's not like we missed a step. People, that's my brother. Bobby Wagner came out and was like, the NFL is a business, and somebody else's business isn't my business, but they got to handle their business. Like, I think it's been compared to what's going on in Dallas or even Cincy, like this has been the most mature hold in, hold out contract trade request that I think we've seen in some time. And I think a lot of that speaks to the character of McLaurin.
Well, bad news for Giants fans who maybe are hoping to avoid Terry McLaurin in week one. Sounds like from your standpoint, you expect it to get done, although it has gotten to the trade request level. You talked about the high-profile acquisitions, and, I had texted you at the time when Von Miller signed there, just about, like, man, the Commanders, Washington's a destination. Like, it's a place that players are signing believing they can win now. What is that feeling like, being around the team as long as you have and seeing the ups and downs of these years? How crazy is it to see guys like that saying, yeah, of all the teams, I'm picking this one? And it just happens in a year, essentially, with Jaden Daniels and Quinn and Peters and what they've done.
I mean, it's bizarre if you look at like the totality of my life as a Washingtonian or my career covering this team for, whatever, close to 15 years. But being there every day and seeing the way Dan Quinn runs a building and the way he gets these guys to believe in competition above all else, yet like maintaining a brotherhood at the same time. Because, sometimes when you've got coaches that are always preaching competition, it becomes like backstabby and really cutthroat. And the level of competition here is not that. It is, let's push ourselves to be our best all the time. And then when we're in the meeting room, like, let's keep trying to help each other. So it's probably a tough needle to thread, but DQ has done that. But everybody deserves credit. They built new facilities. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to the practice facility, but even you've been to the stadium 100 times and it's been god awful most of the time. They're even trying to improve that place. Even like they're spending money to fix the stadium, knowing they're going to be moving out in a couple of years, which says a lot about the ownership's commitment to winning. But I don't think the destination stuff happens without Jaden. It was one thing last year for Ertz and Wagner because they didn't necessarily have a ton of options. And you had veteran, like Ertz wanted to come play with Cliff again. Bobby wanted to come play for DQ again. They kind of believed in what was going on. But this year, Von Miller said it at his opening press conference. Like, it takes a lot for me to leave Josh Allen, but, Jaden Daniels looks like the real deal. And I think it's an interesting time to be down here for sure.
Fascinating. Of the veteran additions, who has stood out the most or who has impressed you the most? And you could throw like Lattimore, Miller, Tunsil, Debo, like maybe of those four, which guy has stood out to you? And then from the draft picks or the youngsters they've added, whether it's Connor Lee, the Oregon offensive lineman, or Trey Amos, the corner from Ole Miss. So one draft pick or youngster that's impressed you the most, and one vet who's relatively new, who's impressed you the most so far.
I kind of want to cheat, but I'll try to play by your rules.
No, you can cheat. Go ahead. If that's what the guys are putting on the field, please do.
Tunsil looks phenomenal, but offensive linemen in late July and early August, what we've seen so far isn't a lot of good work for them. You know what I mean? Like I bet of their, whatever we're in, 10 or 11 practices, twice they've had pads on, maybe 3 times. So I don't want to glean too much, but I am really, his size is remarkable, but Debo looks fantastic, especially the Debo coming off of last season where he got pneumonia and said he was overweight as a result and he didn't have his speed. Debo's looked fantastic. And without Terry there, kind of going into the season, it was like, Debo's like this weapon. You can't necessarily put him in this receiver box. He's looked like a damn good receiver. And I don't know that I've seen a single Debo out of the backfield carry. It's just been like Debo. Now, some of it's the slot, some of it's moving around, but like Debo's looked great. Really, really good. And of the rookies, kind of similarly, Connor Lee's your first rounder, but he was picked 28th to 29th, and he's a left tackle trying to learn right tackle because he's not taking Tunsil's spot. And they're not hit. Like Connor Lee's been okay, but it's hard for O-line to show a lot at this stage. I think Amos has looked good. I think Amos is a starting corner for them right away, but two dudes on the back end. Jalen Lane is a receiver they drafted out of Virginia Tech in the 4th round, who's been great. I think he's going to be their punt returner right away. Now, again, Terry's not out there, so more guys are getting more opportunities. Lane looks the part. And then this last one, man, the 7th round running back they drafted, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. For starters, he goes by the name Bill Merritt.
Whoa.
Yeah, he got absolutely hosed by the NCAA last year at Arizona. Okay. They showed up and said he was ineligible for the year because 3 or 4 years earlier he was at an HBCU and got hurt, and somebody else wore his jersey number, and they said that ruined his redshirt year because the number was in play. Like, just an absolute joke for an underfunded football team that shares numbers, but whatever. So he didn't play last year. He was the MVP of the Shrine Bowl when he showed up. He's looked great. I'm not saying like Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, I think, are very secure in their roles, but this kid, Bill Merritt, I really can't wait to see him in New England, just going against different teams that maybe aren't expecting him and see him what he's got.
What type of runner is he?
In a way, he's kind of like between Eckler and B-Rob. Like, he's physical, but not like a true downhill guy like B-Rob. Mm-hmm. And he's not as twitchy and jumpy as Eckler. He is really, really smooth, though, in his cuts at not losing speed. I saw him hit a really pretty jump cut the other day. Here's the problem. If I give you like a comp for Bill Merritt, who's a 7th rounder without a carry under his, like, it's hard to say a name.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he looks pretty damn good, though. I'm excited to see him in real competition.
That's fascinating. All right, last one, get you out of here. You always have your finger on the pulse, though, not only of the team, but of the fan base in the area and kind of the mojo that the team is creating and building. And one thing I feel like, so you and I both know that over the years, even when the Giants were struggling, it was like they always felt like they could get at least one, if not two, off of Washington. And one of the reasons I felt like it was that way was because Giants fans tend to help take over that stadium a little bit.
Yeah, down
there when they travel there. And obviously it's relatively close, so it's not as hard to get to, and that kind of thing is not across the country. But I'm wondering from you, is there a concerted push from Washington as a franchise to try to prevent that from the fan base? Is there talk about that yet? Do you think that because of what the Commanders did last year, they'll be able to prevent that? Because from a Giants standpoint, it's almost better for them not to be at home and be in front of the here we go again crowd up here in New Jersey when they make a mistake in the first quarter. And it always feels like if they go down to a place like Washington and it's really the diehards and the rabid fans and they start taking over the lower bowl a little bit, now you can gain some momentum. Things can start to take a turn. How do you feel like that dynamic is shaping up? Do you expect a lot of blue in that stadium or no?
That's a great question. One, I think between DC and New York with Philly in the middle, a big part of what makes Northwest Stadium, formerly FedEx Field, like Redskins of the last 20 years, Commanders, whatever, until last year, what makes it so easy for that game to be taken over is there are so many Jersey and Philly people that just live here. Right? Like their parents were from Jersey, their parents were from South Jersey, Philly, whatever, New York, Staten Island, and they just live here now. And they're Giants fans or Eagles fans. Like, so we always talk about like the travel. I think a lot of these people are just here. Like I grew up with Giants fans. You know what I mean? Like I grew up here and they were Giants fans. Obviously the old owner just sold tickets to ticket brokers and it was really easy to access them. They're trying like hell to change that now. And there's a product worth cheering for. Week 1, I don't know that you know this, but week 1, they announced Santana Moss, who's a great player and a great person. They're putting his name up in the Ring of Fame week 1 at halftime. I think it's halftime. Maybe it's pregame. So I'd like to think that will keep that many more Skins fans from selling their tickets and letting Giants fans take them over. And I think this year, week 1 is especially interesting because like, Washington fans are super fired up. Let's assume they get something done with Terry before week 1, right? Like there's not – assuming they get something done with Terry, the sky is pretty blue. There's not a lot of clouds in that sky. No. And Giants fans seem kind of pissed, or at least unenthused. Maybe Jackson Dart is the savior that gets this thing going again. Abdul Carter seems like he could be a stud, but like, are that many Giants fans in a hurry to drive down from Newark, or you know what I mean? Like Long Island, you flying down here for this game?
Well, there's one reason for that. It's because they know if they don't get that one or the Dallas game, if they don't at least split those first two, they got the Chiefs and Chargers after that, and there might be nothing left to go watch.
Right.
So it's like, this is almost like this. It's you're 0-0 for a Giants fan. It's like the hope is at least there going into it, and then we'll see what happens. But yeah, I see your point though.
Last year, I mean, you've covered how many games down here? 15? I don't know, a bunch, I'm guessing.
Yeah, about that. Yep.
What would you say? I'd say good times and bad, because there's been two. I mean, think I've covered the amount of late season Meadowlands games I've covered between a 6-9 Skins team and a 7-8 Giant, like just bad games.
Yeah.
But of the good games down here, I feel like there's always been 30% Giants fans. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's about right. Yep.
Like whatever the average, not like the Giants are really good, the Skins stink, it's end of the year, and the place is 70% blue. But just the average, I would take under on the average for Giants fans week 1.
Got it. Yeah, I do think that I see, we've covered sports a long time. It's like teams that are looking for anything to latch onto, especially where the Giants are now coming off a 3-14 season. A couple nice plays in the first quarter, plus hearing the crowd behind them sound like there's a large percentage of them behind them, always galvanizes them in those moments. But to your point about saying, what's the average and what these teams usually are when they're playing each other, this is what's so fascinating about this opener, JP, is like there's so many years where, because this is my 10th year covering the team here.
Right.
And you see Washington early on the schedule. And for so many years, it was, oh, that's great. That could easily be a win, like 70-30 or 65-35. It could be a win.
Right.
Now you watch it, you're a Giants fan watching Washington in the playoffs last year, gulping, like
right.
this is bad news. So no, fascinating dynamic.
Even last year when Washington came up there, that I believe that was the game after the Hail Mary against Chicago. And I feel like there was a good amount of burgundy and gold in the Meadowlands for that game.
That's true.
I think the Giants, I can't remember what their record was at that point, but I think, Jones had already gotten hurt, and I think they were kind of scuffling.
Yeah, that was December. So yeah, people were selling their tickets, and you're right. There were a ton of Washington.
I think the plane flew over with, I think so. I could be wrong, but
no, yeah, it was one of there were a couple games that planes flew over. Absolutely.
The flip side of that is if Daboll just has an extra kicker active week 2 last year, Washington might have started 0-2.
Well, so that's what's so fascinating about this is like, that week 2 game, I've been saying this a lot lately. That week 2 game was the first game that you could see a defensive coordinator and coaching staff say, all right, Malik, like we're going to concede that we can't guard you one-on-one. So we're going to let you have what you want underneath. We're just not going to let you to go deep. But it was a lot of respect for a player that young in his second ever regular season game. He obviously dropped that 4th down, which was critical in addition to them not having a healthy kicker after warmups. But that's what's so fascinating because really the Giants right now, JP, if Commanders' offensive line is that much improved because of Tunsil, then you're negating the Giants' biggest weapon, their pass rush. That's what they hope it is. And then you just worry about, hey, can you cover Malik Neighbors and keep him from catching those Russell Wilson moon balls? So
yeah, I can't wait.
I can't wait either. Thank you so much for joining us. He is JP Finlay, NBC4 Sports in the DC area. Also, BMitch and Finlay. Listen every day on 106.7 The Fan. And like I said, follow him on social media, especially on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, because that's where the reels are. That's where the magic is happening.
Talk, baby.
Thank you so much, JP, man. You're the best.
Dude. All right. See you, buddy.